We haven't talked about Brock this entire show. He didn't have his best game last week. It was going against a really good defense in a really loud freaking stadium. I was there. It's incredibly loud. Now he's got a home game in LA, and he has even less talent around him, but he's going against a defense that's done nothing well this season. What are your expectations for Brock in this game? Let's go Jesse first.
My expectations have nothing to do with statistics. I mean, statistics are one thing, but anybody with eyes can watch the first 2 weeks of the season. And statistically, Brock Purdy played way better in game 2. But the reality of the situation is he played way better in game 1. If you watch the game, he was a much better player in game 1. And why was he a better player? Well, he played within himself. He played calm, collective, went through his reads, and was mobile in the pocket when he had to be, didn't make a ton of mistakes, and just kept drives going. In week 2, I think we saw something from Brock that I don't know that I've seen. I mean, maybe you guys can point out a game. We can talk about the Ravens game as bad as it was with 4 interceptions, but even in that game, he continued to battle. This was the first time that I've seen Brock drop back and stand flat-footed in the pocket multiple times throughout the course of a game. He's always hitching up, going from progression to progression to progression, and then taking off and running, trying to protect himself. This was the first time that I felt like he was actually flummoxed in his whole career. So for me, I just want to see him get back to being what we've seen before. I want him to be calm, cool, collected, go through his progressions, keep his feet moving, be agile when he needs to. I don't care about the stats. Protect the football. That's the only stat I care about. And the rest of it, it's for the birds. I don't care how many yards, how many touchdowns. None of that matters. Just be who you've been up to this point. Because last week, that wasn't it.
Coach.
I expect him to have a better game, more of what he did in week 1 than he did in week 2. I think me and Jesse went over the numbers a while back with what he did in week 2. Really, if you look at the 2-minute drive that we had, he was 8 for 8 for about 60 plus yards.
57 yards.
57 yards. So if you take that drive out, he kind of had a pedestrian day. One thing that I feel like Brock's strength is seeing the field, right? Processing and letting the ball go. It seemed like Brock was foregoing a lot of easier routes to try to get bigger routes to try to get the team going. And just to piggyback off of what Jesse said, he does need to be where his feet are. He needs to play within himself. Give what the offense is, take what the defense is giving him, be able to pass the ball out on time, give confidence. And every play doesn't have to be a play that wins the game. I think that Brock is pressing. I think that he really does want to be the leader, but he's not going to do it by changing what he's been doing thus far. He's got to go back to what he's been doing, especially how he started off in week 1. I think that he will bounce back against a defense that, quite frankly, isn't really good. The linebacking core is really weak. The defensive line, they don't necessarily have a pass rush. So even if he doesn't really get the ball out that quick, one thing that I'm looking for Brock to add in that we haven't seen thus far in the season is running the ball. Brock needs to start scrambling more. There's a lot. We need to start adding that threat back into our offense. We are a running football team, and part of that running football team is letting defenses know that they have to play 11 on 11. Right? Brock will take off. And I think that he did a really good job of that last year, especially in the playoffs, man. Like when there were times where he couldn't get the ball out and receivers weren't necessarily getting open from man-to-man coverage, Brock was making us right with his legs. I think we need a little bit more of that. It adds an extra element. And one thing that him scrambling the ball actually does that I've noticed, and I don't think Kyle likes to admit it, but it calms Kyle down. It makes the defense more honest, and it gives Kyle the ability to start calling things for more people to get involved. That way, Kyle gets a little bit more ingratiated with the offense, where some of the stuff that he likes to do with all of the shifting and trying to get the defense to play against their rules, that stuff plays in part when defenses have to worry about Brock taking off. So scrambling is the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking for Brock to be able to calm himself down and to give the offense and Kyle more confidence.
Ryan.
Yeah, I think he's going to get back to the mean for Brock Purdy. Like I talked about earlier, I mean, 1 touchdown pass on the season, I don't see that continuing long. Now, touchdown passes in general are down throughout the NFL, so that has to be factored in. But I imagine he's going to throw for a couple. He's going to settle down and take what is there, as opposed to how he's been playing, which is kind of just forcing everything into the middle intermediate when there's easier plays to be had on the dump off. I'd like to see him take a couple shots deep, because I believe he's only gone past 20 yards 6 times, if I'm right, past 25 once. So I'd like to see him spread the field, take a couple shots downfield, make the defense respect it, but then also hit your dump offs when they're available and they're open. I feel like he's just kind of pushing things, forcing things a little bit. Maybe he's feeling the pressure of contract season, the weight on his shoulders, and he might feel it a little bit now with all of these guys out in this upcoming game. But really what he needs to do is get back to just taking what is there. Don't be afraid to dink and dunk. That's the NFL now, right? Don't be afraid to just take the easy dump off. And I think he'll do it. I really do.
It's interesting. Kyler absolutely torched his defense last week, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. But the week before that, Jared Goff didn't do great against the Rams. He was 18 to 28, 217 yards, touchdown pick, 85 quarterback rating. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be tough for Brock. On the one hand, he's faced this scheme before. He knows the Rams. It's not like the Vikings, where it's this weird thing that he doesn't face very often, and it's tough. This is he's diced this up before. Yeah, he won't have his weapons, so I think it's hard to expect him to throw for 300 yards or to put up 30 points. So I think what his job is going to be is to not turn the ball over. Like, don't force things, because you don't have to. You're still the more talented team, and you do not force things. If you got to scramble, if you got to throw it away, that's fine. But 2 turnovers last week, that can't happen. Your job is to manage the game this week, because that's all it's going to take to win it. And that's basically going to be Matthew Stafford's job too. There's not enough talent for you to take chances all over the field. He took too many chances last week, and if he keeps playing like this, he's going to turn into Jimmy Garoppolo. He was a guy in the past that would throw 3 touchdowns to every turnover he would commit. Now, those 3 touchdowns aren't probably out there in this game because so many guys are hurt, so he can't lose the game on his own. That's my expectation for Brock. He was loose with the football last week. He won't be this week. That's my expectation.